Today we're gonna move from the mood board to the 3D digital space, and I will show you my 3 drafts on how the design of the studio might look. The first step we need to do is to measure the room. The studio will end here with a door, so that means that we're gonna measure it from down here all the way to the corner, and then from that corner we will probably go somewhere here in the middle, because the rest is my wife's. That's her beautiful white table, while mine is more like, you know, wood and stuff. A mess, a lot of mess. We need a different one. Let's wait. Okay, this is another color. Let's draw the wall, so I think it's gonna go like this. So in here we got 227.5 centimeters. Now let's measure this, the height, and then the other wall. So the height is mostly 20 to 52, and then inside here in the corner it's actually 251.5. There's a half centimeter difference. Basically I decided to go all the way to the end of that IKEA shelf, which is approximately 305. So this wall is gonna be very long, but I deserve to use a little space as my wife is owning the rest of the apartment. So I've been jotting down some ideas of what can be in the studio in the future, and so now I think that it's the right time to really go and make it in a digital prototype, because, you know, having it in drawings like this, it's a little still abstract, and it's hard to sort of move things around to actually see how they would all play together. So I drew some different layouts of how the table can be positioned here in that corner, and then I also drew all the ideas that I got from the mood board, including the peg wall, the camera wall, the picture wall, the frames, and everything that I actually liked. And now it's really hard for me to visualize it on paper. I'm not an architect, unfortunately. And so it's actually easier for me to now make it in a digital space where we can, you know, play with different layouts, and we'll see how it played together, so we would eventually get what we want. Here we go, the 3D model that I created based on the measurements that we were measuring. And so here we see that beautiful corner of our beautiful studio here. The first and the foremost draft is having the table exactly where it is at this current time. And what I liked from the mood board was the frames, so I would like to have 3 hanging frames with a very colorful, maybe calm Japandi color picture. Then we have those vertical wooden piles on the both sides, as well as here on the wall that is just here on the right. That's the one here where we have the Just Do neon sign that is kind of also in vertical position, like, you know, those Asian characters, they're always written, or the Chinese ones are written from the top down, which is kind of cool. And here we just embraced and used that idea. And of course the white wall or white board that we have over here is the actual pegboard with the holes where I would be hanging stuff. And here in the corner I'm planning to put the cameras and some other nice things that I like, you know, the Star Wars stuff. And in here we have that moving trolley, sort of a working surface where I would be having the top-down shots for the cameras, and would just be basically doing all the manual work there, which in the future might include the print shop and yeah, stuff. stuff along with that. And here on the left side I would also have some shelves where I would have the flowers, so that would be sort of a garden that is here on the left side from the table, and so that would kind of divide the room and would show that that's the start of my studio, right? Because the rest is my wife's, you know that already. So this is the first concept. It's a lot of wood actually, and so I will show you directly the second draft. And so here we, at least yeah, I had to discuss this with my wife because she sometimes have a lot of great ideas actually. So here I removed the vertical wooden piles from the left side and also the right one. So the middle part here that I have where it's just a wooden wall with the pegboard, it stands out. There's more contrast between the white wall and the wood, which is actually quite great, and so the rest remain the same. I still like the idea of those vertical lines, and the reason for having it in this way actually, not in a different sort of more asymmetrical layout, is because I like when the things are kind of symmetrical. So the first wall here, the table wall, is symmetrical, right? You have those piles on the both sides, and then it's kind of the same with the wooden make wall, I call it. So here on the top we would be having that neon sign, and I haven't decided on what word would be there. Maybe it's just do or make, but essentially this would be my favorite wall. And then the one where the table is, of course, that's the working station. This is my wife's favorite, by the way. I kind of like it as well, and the only thing that I am having sort of an issue with is here that corner. Somehow I don't like that there's this sort of place where we have those wooden piles and then suddenly there's just a little of the white wall, and then the rest is the way it is. And by the way, I have this all in right proportions, so I try to model everything with correct sizes, and so this actually already should resemble sort of the real world and the way it should look in the future. So that's something that I always pay attention to. When it's always easy to draw it in the computer or make some 3D models, but when you sort of actually go with the right measurements, it's way more accurate, and then it's also easier for me to then think about how it's gonna be all constructed, because obviously this wooden wall can't just be stick to the wall like this. All right, so let's move to the third ideas. And so here it's a combination of the first and the second one, and here I went for an accent color. I always like the idea of it because many of the ideas on the internet actually, or all the cool studios, they have always this accent sort of darker color on some wall, and here we use the shades of the Japandi. Maybe it's gonna be lighter if we would go for this option. And so after a few thoughts about this one, it's nice on the paper or in the computer, but I'm not sure if having a color here would work, because I still want and like the idea of frames. So perhaps here you would need to remove the frames, because obviously you would have some images on them or in them, and so it would make more sense to have the neon sign on this dark wall, and then it would pop out even more. So these were the three ideas for this home studio design. I actually slept on this. I modeled it yesterday, and now to me it looks a little too simple. Maybe I don't see the sort of wow effect yet for some reason, but it's functional. I think that maybe going for a way too complicated setup would result in sort of a mess, and then you would not have that minimalistic Japanish style of the room. And the main point here is not to, and that's what I try to remind myself, is not to have a YouTube studio or the studio for recording, but rather a space where I would feel good, where I would like to sit and enjoy and spend a good time. So of course it's easy to fall into the YouTube trap when I would be considering the angles, right? And sort of, okay, so this is the dope setup with a nice background. And so that's something that is better to keep off my mind. And of course, if we have a look on what part of this would go first and then the rest, so we definitely have that trolley that would come definitely later. And so I would be focusing on I would be focusing first on making the actual walls, and the rest can come later. Let me know what from those 3 options you like. I'd love to hear your opinion, because the more hats, where there's this saying, right? The more brains, the more we know. Just made it up. Okay, I will also show you our next really cool stuff that we can do here in SketchUp. This is really nice, right? So you can kind of switch from the typical sort of 3D model to only lines, for example. So this would keep you from thinking about colors, but rather about the actual position of things. And it's also a good way to look at the design or the concept of in this case the home studio design. Suddenly you feel different about it, and you think more about the concept and the actual structure and maybe the patterns and surfaces. So that's why I really like using SketchUp instead of other 3D modeling tools, because it's just perfect for such use case. Look at this, so cool, very cool. Allowing myself to work on this passionate project is really rewarding. I enjoy every single minute on it, even though modeling all the room and all the things around took a little bit of time, but still it was totally worth it. The next step is to narrow all those drafts and ideas to just only one design, and from that on we can move on towards the construction and thinking about little details that would be even more satisfying. So yeah, stay tuned, and I will see you in the next one.